thinking about presenting cookies to my garden team. As Roel explained to you, he came last fall, he came to Paleis and he explained how he was working with Iris. Kees also came, he also explained out, and due to their presentation, the gardeners really felt like, can you do that with it? Oh, but then I think it's a good idea. So they made up this list of the things they would like to do with being able to do with Iris. As a consequence from this year, we started recording our annuals. So from the time the seed arrived, we made labels for the seed, and the labels accompany in the sowing process the whole thing. That started. We decided that one of the things we also would like to record and track is the placing of our orangery tubs in the garden. We have a garden team of 16 and there is only one who knows where the tubs go. He's always the same guy that does it every year, but if he gets sick or whatever, all the others won't know what to do. So we decided to start recording, so if something happens, at least that knowledge is also kept and stored.
And are they always put in the same place? Because that's...
No, not completely. It depends on for instance, the orange trees. It depends on if they were trimmed in the season before and the amount of sun they. So there's the whole complex.
Similar problems.
Yeah. So and you have to change the. So those two were easy. I mean, I can imagine how we're going to do that. Part of it is already installed. Other parts are not. But there is this very special cookie that my head gardener would like to have. He would like to be able to use Iris for his planting schemes. And I want to explain a little bit. We have a historic garden, so we have a specific type of planting scheme. So I would like to introduce the garden and tell them it's just the red button, I suppose.
No, the arrow to the right or left.
Okay,
right. Yeah.
Thank you. So this is our garden. It's a Baroque garden in the Netherlands.
That's my house, you should say.
You can ride the bicycle over there.
It's a young hunting lodge. It was built at the end of the 17th century, and we have different parts. We have a private Queen's garden, a King's garden. The Queen's garden, of course, has a berceau, so a walking. How do you call that in English? Loofgang in English. Also berceau. Anyway, but the ladies in the 17th century were able to walk outside without getting any tan because they were not allowed to. The King's garden with a grassy area that they could play cross, a type of cricket. And when the palace was established, we only had the lower garden, so that's completely, of course, symmetrical with parterre de broderie, parterre de gazon. And by the time, it's for William III and his wife Mary Stuart, and by the time they became King and Queen of England, 1690, the garden was enlarged and they increased it with what we call the upper garden. There's also a change in garden styles. At that time, the broderie gardens were height of fashion, so that's 1680. Only 10 years later, it's much more interesting to have lawns or gazons. It's more complicated. So they made a grass garden, and they especially imported a gardener for England to take care of the grassy bit. So, in style with the 17th century, we always have two planting schemes each year. We have a spring planting and we have a summer planting. To have as an example, for instance, here completely from top, there again you see the Queen's garden, King's garden, and the lower garden. In the 17th century Baroque garden, symmetry is a very important aspect of the garden. And we plant in a lot of symmetrical ways. So this is a impression of the planting. Let me see, we'll see. So we have fixed elements, for in this case the junipers, but you can see that, for instance, so it mirrors. So the plant species planted over here. Here we have beautiful double Alceas, hollyhocks, donated by the historical garden of Aalsmeer. But it's symmetrical within the border, but also to the other side. So if you plan to use a plant species over there, it will immediately be used at other spots in the garden. So somehow I cannot wrap my head around, is it possible to make just this one list of saying, okay, so we have, let's say, 80 unique species we use, but those 80 are, dispersed in a certain order throughout the garden. Is it possible to just have this list of 80 numbers? We fill in for each year the species we would like to use, and somehow we will have a representation on our maps so that we can use our planting also in the Garden Explorer. Because for us, that is the last bit. This is, of course, you call it so nice, the displayation. This is our show garden. I mean, all the species we use have a link to the 17th century, but they're not our main collection. Our main collections are mostly behind the scenes. So that's more or less the question. So is there a way in which I can offer my head gardener this special cookie and give him a way in which he very easily can plan his plantings, and we can show it in the Garden Explorer. Any one of you, any idea how you would start trying to implement something like this?
I might come up with ideas, but I will wait for someone else first.
Well, maybe you could number all the order.
Yes, well,
in which you want to show the plants.
we do have, of course, we use now still the old-fashioned way, so we do it on paper and we do it manually. But we do have, for all our parterres, we do have the schemes where the different numbers
so you have got, if you have got all these numbers in your location, then you could just add the plants, if you use them more or less the same every year in the comments of your location.
No, but the fact is, then these numbers are not unique.
No, but you have numbered your large beds, of course.
Yes.
Actually, look, so we have our reference numbers, but I mean that would be a naturalistic planting. This one area with a number, and then within that we have a reference number that is sort of starts in one corner and goes around.
Yeah.
And then we shift that quite often because we plant new things within, and then so we extract from Iris into Excel, and then we renumber every year because you put things in between number 2 and number 3. So and then we import it again into Iris. So I guess it would be possible to create some kind of script in Excel that you know that number 1, 10.
Yeah, but that was one of the things that I think I can more or
Which
less
shall be
figure
the same.
how I can do it in Excel to rename each year. But yeah.
I mean, one approach. I've just had one sort of thing. I've talked with one garden where they were doing a lot of planning. A tremendous amount of material they were ordering all around, and they decided to accession the material when they ordered it, so that they basically had tracking because there was so much material coming, so they can then have a full, taxonomy. They can also prepare the data before it arrived. So they basically accessioned at the point of ordering the material. And one possibility here might be to start, we're accessioning the material when we're planning to get it, or planning to put it out there. And then you can combine that with having a separate item type. So you have different types of living material and the preserved material. So you could have a type specifically for your plants. I mean, it's a bit crazy maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's a good idea. But if you did that, you can at least separate that. That doesn't, that doesn't need to come up on any maps or anything until you ask for it. So that will then be a separate data set, which are the plants you have.
Because
and then you
it's
can,
a different item type.
yeah.
Yeah, but of course everybody goes like, but one of the thing is, okay, you order seeds, annuals, we grow them ourselves, and then one species turns out completely a different variety, it looks too modern, we cannot use it. So they're shifting the plants all the way to be able to cater for what is needed to plant in the garden. So it doesn't really work from clear planning till what's going into the garden.
Yeah, no, I was thinking more not necessarily when you order, but more, using the accessions as a way to contain your plans.
Yeah.
It looks a bit messy by instinct. It doesn't sound right, but I'm just opening my mouth because that would fit into the way the system actually works now. That's the only thing.
What we try to do is make what I'm working out with Wouter, how to deal with the Clusius garden.
Yes.
To extract an order list from Iris with the locations already added, and then you send the wish list to a grower, and the ideal situation would be that you can just amend the list with the numbers of plants you get and that kind of stuff, and that you can upload it again. But that's, well, we haven't been very successful with that, because when you get back your order and you have to work on this Excel file and then upload it again, there was a lot of handwork involved to get it back again. But that would for us be the ideal situation with the garden, where you want to have the same, more or less the same things every year, that you download your order list, that you change it a little, and that you upload it again.
And additionally for us we change the planting scheme each year.
But that we could do in a systematic garden, but there are all kinds of gradations, of course.
Yeah.
For us this would be an ideal system.
But mainly, so the idea is, okay, so find a way to solve it in Excel and get it from there imported into Iris. That's the general, I don't know, also over there, of course.
And recently we had some difficulty if we order a set of plants of the same species, and you want to have it in different locations. We couldn't get it right to have them as different items under one accession. And I couldn't find it in the import field, so that took us quite a lot of work.
Oh yeah, well, you have an internal bell when you get in touch when if you feel like it's getting too long time.
When I get back.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it should be in the
Because
spreadsheet.
we are working on this workflow, because the Clusius garden, for instance, is a lot of work every year.
Yeah, it might be the same as.
Yeah, it's more or less the same.
Yeah, because there are all the dots might be locations. That's the trouble we have. Is that right? Or is it too difficult? But then every plant is one location.
True.
Yeah.
True.
So, but the plants you actually have in the garden, you already have material that it's recurring material in a way. I mean, it's not necessarily genetically, but because you could, of course, then, like some gardens do with annuals, they recycle the accessions. They say, okay, first time we had this plant material in this garden, they have that accession. I think Oslo does that, so that they just reintroduce new plants, even though it's different genetic material, but they just recycle the accession every year.
We chose for the same for the animals. We chose for the same approach, because we would like to be able to track back, saying, okay, so this particular species we already used 2015 and 2018, so we'll not. We mostly use teams, so smelling the garden of smell, or a garden of fruits, or so each year we try to find a different theme and adapt the choice of.
So, but it wouldn't be more practical, or it is not possible for you to have the planting of certain of the beds the same every year, because your visitors won't know.
Well, that's part of the cookies for the head gardener. He really likes making these new planting schemes, and I mean, and that's also part of the fun. That's showing that there were so many different plants were already there at the end of the 17th century, and at least show that to your visitors.
Right. Every year you have the same amount of plants per let's say. So there you over there have,
Well,
I
more or
don't
less
know,
like
100 points.
If you think this is a spring planting for a number, we would have specifically for tulips, for instance, there are 5 bulbs.
Uh-huh.
And
And
but it's one
the
yeah.
location of those points won't change per year.
No,
will be
for,
like
for our
fixed.
formal setting, it won't change. No.
Because I think you can say like this is one bed,
Mm-hmm.
and because everything is mirror, you can split in quarters, so 4, and then so in a quarter here, but here is something different. But anyway, this point will
Yeah.
be an accession number. And every mirror will be no accession, and will be an item, different item, and per item you can locate
yeah.
exactly. And if every time is the same, it will be easy to replicate.
We have all the
Understand?
references items.
So
yeah.
it will
Yeah,
be
accession
like planting,
items.
The points are
like
fixed.
you have
Yeah.
a bed, and then in bed you have the quarter A, B, C, and D,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have, for example, this place, or this place, another number, and then the final location point, and then you have, exactly.
For each
the-
item, you have
Exactly.
a different locality.
And
That's
then
the
you
same
can
as the
locate
location.
every
Yeah.
single point.
Yeah, I think that would work.
Curious, Eivind, I've talked with Ralph in Mainz also about this. Ralph in Mainz, he is working with the systematic garden, and I have the impression that his system, the stuff that he's struggling with now looks very much like Renske's issues and Gerda's issues in the Clusius garden. Because they're so strict, so detailed and strict planting schemes. Do you see there's somehow a connection between these 3 issues, or what's your idea about this?
It's a similar issue. Yeah.
I think the solution is first of all to make these locations, these circles, and then maybe that could also be done in mains to make it find every plant sublocation within the bed.
So you think Gerda's solution is quite adequate for this type of problem?
Not if
I
you want
cannot
to
think
change the
of a
points.
better right now. So
Yeah. But then if you just do the points, then you still have to give the information for each point, which plant species will be there, or which
Yeah.
accession number will be there.
Yeah.
And I think your idea of already trying to link it, that I have an accession species and I have all these different items with fixed localities, and then I only have to update the accession list.
Because as I understand it rightly, all the 2s are the same plant in this schedule.
Sorry?
All the numbers 2, that's the same accession,
Yeah.
but then a different item.
Uh-huh.
And if you change, you can change all the 2s, or you can change all the 25s, or you can change nothing, or you can change
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. So this is the ground pattern of our baroque. I have 3 years to find it to change, because our museum is going to be renovated, and the palace will be closed, but the garden will be open. But we are open for a period that is called open differently. So we are now allowed for 3 years to more or less skip the strict baroque planting, and we're going to see what will happen if, for instance, we're going to introduce the Dutch wave into a baroque garden. But that's
But
something
maybe-
completely different.
Maybe we too should go to Mainz at some stage, that we just go and sit together with someone who has more, I think he's the oldest user of our 3.
Yeah,
Of the-
but I don't think that's a good idea. No, but I think that if other
cost
gardens
us a
have
day.
same.
And then we could
yeah.
just work it out.
I think that's a marvelous idea. I mean, that's already a very good outcome of this day. Thank you very much.